All right. So shall we barrel or nah?
Let's do this.
All right. Barrel or nah? Front zip wetties.
Ooh. I'm going...
Front zip jacket is what I mean. I'm sorry. Yes, I should be more specific. Front zip jacket wetties.
I used to be a nah, but I am a barrel on those now.
Why? They seem so non-functional.
I know they seem that way, but I had one a few years ago from Patagonia, in fact. And the zipper was so small and light. And I don't know, it was just easy to get in and out of. And my arms aren't that flexible. So I don't have to pretzel up. So I'm going barrel. But it can't have a beaver tail. That's lame.
Beaver tail is specifically for aesthetic only, right? Does it snap through the front like a diaper?
It did. And then when did the beaver tail come back? It was like in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. Some people did it, but I never see those anywhere. I don't think anyone does a beaver tail.
It's to keep your butt cheeks warm.
Yeah, but it wasn't that it would come up and then there was a clasp, and then you would put the pants on first, then the jacket, and that would presumably, I guess, keep the jacket from blowing off, filling with water.
Yeah.
But if it's a front zip but not the burly zipper, it has to be a really thin zipper.
That's the thing. So, and more often than not, when I see somebody wearing them, it's unzipped.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
And it's flapping in the wind.
Maybe it's just they want some sun protection, but they could wear a long sleeve shirt.
Exactly. So I think it is strict. Those people are strictly doing it for aesthetic. In which case you got to go nah.
Yeah.
I think function always has to come first.
I agree. I've had a few that I've enjoyed, so I do happen to like the way they look. Maybe so that's a little bit of the Chaz in me is like, but Chaz would probably hate, I'm sure he would say, nah.
But
would he say
you like the way that they look, but it's functional first. Of course, style matters.
Yeah, I just like getting in and out of it. It's really easy. I'm kind of a lazy surfer, to be honest.
So you like to talk about, or not like to talk about, but like hand jives and like there's certain aesthetic things, but I would argue even that, like Tom Curran doing a bottom turn, his hand placement isn't for the sake of style. It's because those body mechanics are going to project him down the line better than if he had his hands at his side or whatever.
Yeah, that's functional hand jive.
Yeah. So but functional wetty toe.
Contrived. So I see the point you're making. You know, if it's just for a certain look, then yeah, it has to be a nah.
Okay.
It's a nah. But the ones I have one right now from Axe Wetsuits. It's really nice. Zipped up. It's just easy in and out. And you can also, I have a long john that you can surf with the long john, which might be a nah in your book, but the long john is nice as a longboarder when you're mostly on top of the water and your legs are just in there. And then you can throw this jacket on, but there is no diaper clasp thing. You just put it on over and zip it. It'd be a little hard if it didn't have the zipper to kind of shimmy in there because it has that sort of smooth rubber on it.
But if you're wearing a long john and a jacket, why wouldn't you just wear a full suit?
You know, it's a convertible.
No, it's not, because you're only driving with the top up ever.
I know, it's fraught with all kinds of issues. I'm a hypocrite.
Man, no kidding. I expected you to have a strong opinion on this, and you've waffled. When I was a kid, I remember going down, my family had a place down in Baja. So we'd go down there, and then like I started surfing, and then my surfing buddy from school would come down with us, and the water's frigid just south of the border.
Yeah.
And I had a wetsuit, you know, but he didn't. Ooh. So he had to cobble one together. And what he had was somehow wetsuit shorts. Just actually, they look like
the Hydrolite, like those ones that OP used to make.
Yes. They look exactly. I mean, they
made them too. They were
cut above the knee.
Yeah, they were neoprene shorts.
Neoprene shorts.
That was a thing. Late 80s, maybe.
Yeah.
Early 90s.
Exactly. This would have been mid 90s for us, and so his were probably 5 years old at that point.
Yes.
And they were hilarious to look at. It's like a bicyclist. Like it's obviously neoprene, but it's thicker than a bicyclist.
Was he embarrassed by them or didn't care?
No, because we were kids.
Yeah, who cares?
Like who just needed to be in the water all day long, and so any amount of warmth. And then he coupled that with a short sleeve wetsuit top. So he had the wetsuit short bottoms that were black, and then this like neon O'Neill, 3 different neon colored wetsuit top that was short sleeve. But you go in the water and the belly would fill up with water. The shorts would get flushed. You know, it was like not really doing its job. And at the time, we didn't think twice about it. I never made fun of him. He never complained about the cold water. You just did it. Because when you're a kid, cold water doesn't really keep you out of the water, you know? But in hindsight, then we became went through puberty and had an opinion on what looks cool and what doesn't. And I remember pointing at him being like, remember that outfit that you used to wear? I think we even had photos of it, you know? But just the most classic, terrible.
Well, maybe he'd be open to a front zip jacket then.
He would definitely be open to a front zip jacket.
So
I don't think he would fit in a front zip jacket anymore. Do they make them in larger sizes, front zips?
Well, you can get them custom. Yeah, okay. Sure.
All right. Cool. Good to know. All right. So barrel on front zip Wetties. Barrel or nah, naming your dog after a surfer.
I'm going to say nah. No.
You're not cool with Curran coming over to play? Your friend comes over and brings Curran to go play fetch?
No, I think maybe the only one I could maybe get into is Dora. No, I'm just going to go. I'm going to
full
say
nah.
Yeah, that's a nah.
All right.
Let's just go with some classic names. You know, our dog's name is Penny. I don't think any surfers are named Penny.
No, there isn't. That's wide open for anybody who's got a daughter on the way who's hoping that they could become a professional surfer. Penny is wide open.
Okay.
See, I always felt that was problematic for people who love surfing, so they name their kid Kelly. Your kid can never live up to the throne that Kelly Slater has set. You might as well just pick a brand new name.
Oh, I know one that could work. Hang on a second. I'm still nah. What about Duke?
I don't think you can.
Duke? It's kind of like a cool, it's like...
Wait, for the dog or for your kid?
No. Oh, well, both.
Duke's okay for the dog. But I think if you have aspirations for your kid to be a pro surfer and win world championships, I don't think you can name him Duke. It's almost blasphemous, actually.
Is it?
I think so.
I see it as potentially paying homage to maybe the most important surfer in our history. Someone could argue George Freeth maybe got cut out of that a little bit, but because of who Duke was as a person and the other amazing things he did, if you're gonna pick a random name for your kid, I picked Rex, right? It's not necessarily handed down from the family. It is semi-random. At least the one with Duke. For me personally, I just really love the story of Duke and what he represents.
For sure.
I
love the idea of an homage, or naming your kid after your grandfather. That's an homage, similar thing. But what I'm saying is there's only room in surfers' minds for when you hear the name Kelly, when you hear the name Stephanie, when you hear the name Gabriel, Idolo, Felipe, Jordy, Julian, Mick. Those are singular. There's only one person
with
that.
If I told you when you asked me earlier, what are you naming your kid? And I said, Italo. That would be so awesome.
Dude, you should have. I should have teed you up for that one.
I like that guy. I mean, I'm a fan of the guy.
Of course we are.
That's awesome.
What about, so I was thinking about when people say Dora nowadays.
You think Dora the Explorer?
Well, maybe kids do. I was thinking in the surf space, though. Do most people think Yago Dora? Right? Yago's got a brand as Yago because he can't compete. He can't live up to the Dora legacy. He's got to stick with Yago. He should go Madonna style, eliminate the Dora, just be Yago. Yeah. Because we only have room in our mind for one Dora, and you're not it.
Yeah.
So
but Dora's been canceled, so I don't think he can really be.
What did he get canceled for?
As a racist. You didn't see that whole thing going around?
I mean,
that's a different discussion, but Dora's been canceled.
I mean, first of all, nobody cares about surfing enough to actually cancel anybody. Like we're not big enough. So Dora's legacy will live beyond this current climate that we're in.
Yes.
And even if he was a racist, he's got a lot of blemishes in his character. In his story, he's just
a thief and a con artist and
completely blemished character.
Yeah.
And we all accepted that a long time ago. And it's not that we're celebrating him.
Sure.
But that's who he was.
Sure.
You know?
But, well, I just thought I just was backpedaling a little. I just thought that Duke was an interesting one because it sort of supersedes all of that. Like, it's just the origin story for us.
It's like naming your kid Jesus, though. You know what I mean?
People do.
I'm saying they shouldn't. That's Jesus. You can never, unless he's the second coming and he's going to resolve all of our sinning, don't do it.
So your reasoning is more that you're setting someone up that they're not going to live up to the expectation. There's an expectation that comes with the name, and it's almost unfair to the kid.
A, it's unfair. B, it's narcissistic. I'm more concerned about your narcissism.
Why would it be narcissism to name him Duke?
To even hitch your wagon to that level of greatness is an element of narcissism, I would say. I'd say
that was your motivation.
Carve your own path.
But I would be hard pressed to think someone would do it for that reason. I guess you could. I would think more people would be like, "Hey, it's an honor of the guy." But you know,
they don't. In their mind, they're not doing it for that reason. I'm saying embedded in the homage is an element of narcissism.
Okay, all right. So
this is an
you're a nah.
I'm definitely nah. But now that I'm actually thinking about this, and you are naming a child, it really does set up their life. I mean, you really got to think about these things because, you know, if you name your daughter Candy, not great odds that she's going to be a doctor.
Mm.
You're limiting her professional, and there's probably Candies out there who have become doctors, but there's a lot more of them that have chosen other lines of work.
Yeah.
So it really does. And that's not what's happening there. Is there's a social stigma in place with certain names. And so society maybe treats them a certain way or ushers them down a certain pathway.
Right.
I'm not saying that the name itself has weight attached to it. I'm saying society attaches the weight.
Right.
But it really does make you really
Yeah.
do a deep consideration.
So we got onto baby names. We started with dog names. Have you met any dogs named after surfers? Like, is that what brought this up?
I named a dog after a surfer when I was a teenager.
Oh, really?
I had a black lab named Curran.
Really?
I did.
Amazing. That's awesome.
But I have not done it since. Since then, I had a Dalmatian named Chip. And now I have another black lab terrier mix that's a 4-month-old puppy named Sophia.
Sophia.
So not at all related to surfing. So
Sophia.
Unless you, Sophia Milanovic, maybe.
Sophia's a good name.
Thanks. I'm happy with it.
Sophia Loren.
Big fan. Sophia when she's in trouble. Sophie most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So going nah on naming your dog after a surfer. Barrel or nah? Virtue signaling.
I almost feel like you know my answer on that. But.
Well, before you give it,
yeah,
you referenced this in our pre-show discussions a little bit about like friends putting social media posts about politics or whatever. I've taken a hard line against virtue signaling in the last year on the show repeatedly for Black Lives Matter or various things, in that it's okay to make a statement about what you believe in. What I'm against is putting the black square on Instagram because everybody else is putting a black square on Instagram. And if you don't do it, then maybe you'll be classified as not caring. So you do it strictly to virtue signal.
Correct.
And the reason why I'm against it is a disingenuous jumping on the bandwagon is actually not progress. I think that that's actually regression. I think that there are important people who deserve the microphone right now. So let those people speak.
Right.
They have important things to say and they have skin in the game. Me putting this, now I'm using Black Lives Matter as an example, but me now putting this black square on Instagram actually dilutes the conversation. I have nothing to say. I'm going to get out of the way because let's let the people who have something to say talk. Anyways, I've taken that line with politics. I've taken it with the Black Lives Matter thing. I've taken it with the various things. Disingenuous, I'm not into. But I've gotten negative feedback about that. I've got a number of comments from people going, no, I actually think virtue signaling, even though it is disingenuous, it still adds to the momentum of this movement. And you need to shut up because you're a privileged white dude, middle-class white dude.
Sure.
So you need to shut up. Virtue signaling, let all of your middle-class white dude friends virtue signal, because the momentum that they're building actually pushes things in the, in the way that I want it to go or whatever.
Sure.
So I'm presenting you as the third party who will make the ruling on is virtue signaling barrel or not.
It's a total nah. And virtue signaling covers a wide array of topics. Most recently, it's been about race. But before the race topic, it's about a lot of other things. And and I already sort of teed this up earlier, just someone who is an independent voter, independent-minded person. I do like America. I don't hate America. A lot of people do, but I do like the country. Has a lot of problems, but I've been around the world and there's places with a lot more problems than we have. It's just a fact. Sorry if someone disagrees with that. What I don't like about the virtue signaling is that it's one thing to inform or inspire. I'm all for that. Inform or inspire. But when it comes with an air of I'm on the moral high ground, and so now I'm standing on the moral high ground, and if you're not on board with what I'm saying and doing, and you don't repeat and do what I say, then now you are the face of evil. Right. And that's how the virtue signal thing, they don't really care about really you. They just care about making sure that they look better than you. That's my problem with it. Yeah. I'm completely open to learning about the subject. Yeah. I'm completely open to having a discussion about it. Again, when we're on, it happens on social media, and whenever this kind of stuff happens in person, at least I can have a conversation and I can engage and I can learn. Yeah. And I may not be convinced of their position, but I can at least learn where they're coming from, and perhaps they might learn some things that they weren't aware of, because where they're getting their information to form this opinion might be sketchy at best.
Right.
And digging down a little deeper, having a journalism background, that's how my whole career started in that. I ask a lot more questions than anything. When someone presents something to me, I go, I wonder if that's true. I wonder where that came from. And I start looking into it, and I figure it out for myself. And then even those sources I look like, are those legit? Like, and even then I still don't know, but at least I'm curious. What is a little concerning is the virtue signaling that's happening. That's just a copy, paste, and repeat. And that's along the lines of the problem with the Black Square earlier, in not totally understanding what it is, but most people did it out of fear.
Right.
And so what we're going down a dangerous path, and we're setting a precedent. And that's why doing the post on the politics and doing these things, we're setting a precedent where if you're not on board with whatever the ideology that's popular at the time, if you're not on board, then guess what? You're going to be part of the purge of the Cultural Revolution. We're going to take you out in the streets, and we're going to frog march you down to the guillotine, and we're going to fucking cut your head off. And that's where we're headed. It's the
witch being burned earlier.
It's scary, because, and the friends I have that are doing this, and I bring it up, they go, dude, you're being hyperbolic. You're like not even, or you don't care, or you don't get it, or you're privileged. I'm like, no, we're just trying to get at the heart of the thing. Like, why are we talking about this, and why do you think you're better than everybody? And if you are in the end, let's at least understand the path. Why is that a better position? How does that help people? How does that make things better?
And by virtue of marching that people to the guillotine, you are now becoming the exact perpetrator that you were vilifying 10 minutes ago. What you should be doing is nurturing that person into a level of understanding.
Exactly.
Not canceling them.
Exactly. You can sum it up to this: when you're coming at a position of a moral high ground, it's a really tough one to break through, because most of the time, once you're there atop that mountain, you're not budging, whether you're right or wrong.
Right.
I think that's a dangerous
Very
path
dangerous.
for us to go
Yeah.
as a culture, especially here in America.
Yeah.
It's just something that we really hold dear. And unfortunately, that position is now being taken that if you are a center-minded person, you are now considered right. It's crazy. And
Well,
old school Democrats are, and so like now like even people trying to be reasonable and just like, I feel we're being reasonable. Like I'm super open to all sides of this thing. But when you put the gun to my head, fuck you. That's when I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right. Good. Well, I agree. Virtue signaling, nah. I don't think anybody would identify as a virtue signaler, though. Everybody who's
No.
making a statement thinks that they're doing it in earnest.
Absolutely.
It's
I
only
agree.
us that can call them virtue signalers because we've seen their hypocrisy.
Sure.
So we might be the exact perpetrator of the crime.
And yeah, and I'm sure you'll get a few comments at some point of someone saying, you're saying that out of privilege. I'm not even talking about race. We're just talking about virtue signaling as a practice.
Yeah, agreed.
Like put all the subjects underneath it. This is why we have so much division. We have more. We've just watched ourselves unravel.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if we could just melt social media. I haven't watched that documentary, but many people have said I should.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah. It's
and
good. I mean, honestly, it didn't tell me a bunch, or it
kinda
didn't tell me
knew-
much that I didn't already know.
You knew that.
I mean, I pay attention to that stuff all the
Being
time
tracked,
anyways.
and you know that stuff. But it's upon all of us to take the responsibility to just not put our brains plugged straight in the matrix and not question anything.
Yeah.
You know, and like, what are the intent? What are the intentions of this, and what are the results? And in all of these things, the answer is decency, no matter what
Agreed.
the subject is. That was what we've probably talked about it before, like that quote from Camus. And that's like when that came up with this whole pandemic, like, dude, we've got to be decent so that we can get to an understanding.
Agreed.
And now we're drawing these battle lines, and no one likes to be told to do. It's like getting in a fight in the water, you know, like it's like, you fucking dropped me, fuck you. You know, like no one responds well to that. We've talked about this too, right? And like, if you just paddle up a little bit nicely and be like, try to have a conversation and get some kind of understanding, then it's kind of interesting. Like that person doesn't really drop in on you next time.
Right. Yeah. It dismantles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.